Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of my colleagues at the Chef's Table Society of British Columbia, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to COOKSCAMP 2021. While this year's edition is not the great BC Outdoors Jamboree we all intended it to be, with cookouts and related camaraderie, the same spirit infuses everything that we're going to be talking about today. And I do mean we. Your input is essential to the better future for us all. Of course, that future looks a lot different than it did 18 months ago. That said, we already knew that there was going to be a lot of necessary changes coming to our kitchens and our restaurants, and to the community of suppliers and stakeholders we rely on every day. Some of those future changes, like the pandemic, are going to be beyond our control. However, there's a lot we can manage ourselves, especially when we invest in each other's abilities to succeed and thrive. That, more than anything, is what COOKSCAMP is all about. And while cooks get first mention, this camp is also for all the service staff, the dishwashers, the managers, the porters, the owners, and everybody who makes up the most resilient workplaces on the planet. I look forward to seeing what's on your minds about your careers and the future and your future right now. Of course, we have special guests are ready to offer their own perspective on and advice on to help feed your appetite for positive change. To tell you more about the plans for today and for the future, I turn it over to Darren Clay, President of the Chef's Table Society.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's a very exciting day. Welcome to COOKSCAMP to everyone. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I am joining you from the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Musqueam people. I would also like to recognize that you are joining us today from many places near and far, and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. If you don't know on whose land you sit, www.native-land.ca is a great resource. Now, I'd like to share a quick once around of the Chef's Table Society of British Columbia. We are a province-wide collaborative dedicated to the regular exchange of information between culinary professionals. We create innovative, sustainable programs to educate and support young cooks, chefs, producers in the local food industry, while also promoting professional standards of excellence and regional cuisine. Though it's hard to beat real campfire conversations, today's virtual session allows many more of you to join in. I'm sure you'll come away with some inspiring ideas from today's speakers and from your colleagues across the country. If you're keen to get involved in more conversations like this one, we would love to have your membership participation in the Chef's Table Society, and we can tell you a little bit more about that later on. We've created and launched COOKSCAMP for a lot of reasons, including a fundraiser for our major legacy project, a bricks and mortar culinary library. It will be a place for industry professionals to congregate, learn, experiment, and includes a library, food center, and event space. There's more information on the Chef's Table website, and if you have any specialized skills to contribute to this project, we would love to hear from you and hear about them. Now, of course, COOKSCAMP couldn't have happened without the generous support of today's sponsors, and the Chef's Table Society is very grateful for all of their help. I'm going to hand it back to you, Robert.
We're likely recognized Vancouver's born Mijune Pak as one of the resident judges on Top Chef Canada and Iron Chef Canada. She's also earning recognition as an international food and travel personality and a trusted voice in the culinary world. Incidentally, Mijune also judges the Bocuse d'Or National Selections, Canada's 100 Best Restaurants, the Hawksworth Young Chefs Scholarship, and many other notable awards. Mijune is a true friend and supporter of our industry, and we're happy she could join us today. Over to you, Mijune.
Okay, did this work?
Yep, you're on now.
Am I here?
Yep, you are there. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. Perfect. Thank you, Robert, and welcome to everyone who camped out with us today from across Canada and beyond. I know right now can be a little bit of a scary time for everybody, and there's lots of questions and a little bit of panic, and I feel the same way as you do. I mean, you know, you might see my social media life and just everything out there, but I know behind the scenes things can be a little bit stressful for everybody. I've been a friend of the Chef's Table Society for a very long time. For those of you who don't know, before Iron Chef and Top Chef and the TV stuff came on, Chef's Table Society and a lot of chefs in that society, as well as outside of the society, really provided me with the support I needed to get to where I am today. I know that it's hard to build those relationships, especially during a pandemic. And that's why something like this has been so valuable. And I'm so proud of everybody who decided to sign up, because I think you guys are going to get a ton of valuable advice for how to proceed in the future. And there's going to be lots of positivity and lots of good tools for you to exceed in the industry that we're all so passionate about. So as for the road ahead, we have a wide range of inspiring ideas and practical advice on the way from your industry colleagues. Each of the presentations will be followed by a Q&A. So please type your questions into the messaging center of the Zoom, and Chef Robert Belcham will be back to ask these questions to our guests. Leading off is Chef Johnny Bridge, a longtime coastal industry veteran. Lately, he's been dividing his kitchen time between catering gigs and campus hospitality services at UBC. University of British Columbia. A board member of the Chef's Table Society, Johnny also is a member of the organization Mind the Bar. He'll tell you more about their important work and about a smartphone app called LifeWorks. Our thanks to Knifeware for helping us bring you this presentation. Campers, remember to put your Q&As into the question box, and again, we're going to answer that after the presentation. Please welcome Johnny Bridge.
Thank you, Mijune, and hello, everybody. This is a very interesting way for us to be doing this. I very, very much look forward to sitting around a campfire and doing this in a more intimate scenario out in the woods next year. But here we are making the best of what we have. That short intro of me was very kind. Thank you. I will give you a short intro as to what Mind the Bar means, as Mind the Bar is the foundation that's hosting LifeWorks, which we are speaking about today. Mind the Bar is a foundation dedicated to providing information and support resources for hospitality industry. That means that we're here for folks struggling with depression and anxiety, thoughts of self-harm, substance misuse or addictions, or workplace harassment. That's a large myriad of very difficult things, but those are things that we believe need attention and support, specifically for restaurant industry. Mind the Bar is free, 100% free for anybody who is in the industry, has ever worked in the industry, wishes to work in the industry in the future, or is close to the industry. What we're going to do today is we're going to walk you through LifeWorks. LifeWorks is an app available on your phone. The app was developed by Morna Chappelle, but we have taken a certain route on it that's been specifically dialed for industry folks. The app itself is an incredibly large beast. And sometimes I get lost when I speak about it and all the different things that it offers. So I think today we're going to specifically hone in through LifeWorks how we can take it from you who are watching, getting a membership with Mind the Bar, getting through the app, and speaking to a counselor. So I'll take you step by step through that today. The correlation between Mind the Bar and LifeWorks is trying to encourage or to put forward the value of seeking counsel. Letting everybody know that it's okay to not be okay. Everybody who's spoken so far has said something about pandemic or, the stresses that are going on, or even the fact that we're having this event online as opposed to in person. I repeat, it's okay to not be okay. This situation was the word unprecedented, whatever, however it is we're describing it. It's okay that we're not all right in this scenario, and the support that we need is out there. Mind the Bar is here to put that support closer to you, to make you feel safe accessing it. There should be no issue too big or no issue too small to bring forwards to LifeWorks and for Mind the Bar to support you through. So LifeWorks and its many supports. LifeWorks, before I walk you through downloading it, is available 24/7, 365, any hour of the day from anywhere that you can access your phone. LifeWorks is available. We all work in the industry. I'm making an assumption there actually, but as we're speaking about industry here, I'm sure a lot of us are used to hours that don't coincide with the regular 9 to 5. Some of you may have found it difficult at points in your life to have things like doctor's appointments or bank meetings, or just a social life in general. That's why this application is 24/7. The idea is that those of us who are in need in the industry need to be able to access their help any time of the day, anywhere in the world, with whatever their situation is. So we're going to do a quick walkthrough of how to get you confidential counseling step by step. The first step, now I've just spoken about Mind the Bar. First step is signing up for Mind the Bar. That would be at www.mindthebar/get-involved/ that is on your screen right now. That will have everything else that Mind the Bar offers involved on it. But today we're going to go strictly to downloading the app. So now you've gone to the Mind the Bar website. You've said sign up. You've entered your email. It's asked you a description of your involvement with the industry, for which you can put whatever you like. And then it will email you a link that gives you access to, it's a code for LifeWorks. You're now going to go into your phone. You have a smartphone, an iPhone, or an Android. And in any Android or Apple, you can download LifeWorks for free in the App Store. And then as soon as it pops up, the code that Mind the Bar has sent you will populate into the screen, and voila, free LifeWorks. So that app, LifeWorks, you're going to open it up and fill in your information. And the two processes that I'm going to go through today to get you counseling are right at the top. The first one, which is my favorite, says start an assessment. I mentioned that one because it's a really easy, kind of a snackable option, a quick thing that you can do in 15 minutes. You can check up on yourself, and the app will ask you some questions, whether it be about financial well-being, your physical health, incidents in your life, and it will ask you and assess you through those. But that being my favorite that I wanted to highlight, the easiest and quickest way to get to counseling is the button that says Get Help. Big blue sign on the top, Get Help. We're going to click on Get Help. Again, all of this is completely confidential within LifeWorks. But although LifeWorks keeps everything confidential, they will also create a file for you. So now you click Get Help, and it connects you with the triage, and instantly your name has created a file. So now LifeWorks is keeping track of ways that it can support you. We'll go through those ways shortly, but now you exist to LifeWorks as something that they are it's an ongoing project. It will ask you how you would like to communicate with LifeWorks. The options involve a phone call. So the phone call will happen. I've been told the phone calls happen in less than 30 seconds. So you click phone call and your phone rings right away. Again, 24/7, 365. It's an incredible resource. Online chat, a small window pops up in the corner. It's like ICQ back in the 90s. You start typing and somebody will respond to you again within 30 seconds. Hi, how are you? Tell me more. What's going on in your life today? Similar to what we're doing today, third option is a video call. You click video call. It will give you a link to a program directly through LifeWorks, and you will be on video with a counselor right away. And fourth option is group counseling. If maybe the issue is something that doesn't need right away, they can say, hey, we've got a group sitting down. One of the ones that finds a lot of success in group counseling is things around substance misuse or addictions. People can say, hey, there's a group that meets every day. Here's a link to that group. A lot of those are done in video scenarios right now during COVID. Although I know that there's also groups that meet in person that are sourced through LifeWorks. As that file is created in LifeWorks database about you, you're now going through the triage process. So they're going to keep track of where they need to be directing you. Again, all of this is 100% free. But I want to explain what free means. Free means that you don't pay anything for any of this. However, what's going on behind the scenes is your membership with Mind the Bar. Mind the Bar is paying LifeWorks. LifeWorks is paying counselors. So further than it just being free to speak to somebody right away, you have access to 6 sessions with a clinical counselor of the triage's decision. So imagine you've done this, you've decided that you wanted to have a video call. You've gotten into a video call, you've said, hey, hi, my name is Johnny. I'm having a very difficult time today. I've just gone through a rough breakup. I have to go to work, or I've just come back from work and I'm really struggling with life. And they say, okay, let's sit down and let's talk about this. Let's book you in with a counselor right now. Screen changes, you go to the counselor. Now you're going to speak to this counselor for 30, 60, or 90 minutes, and then they're going to schedule return visits. I don't think that there's many sit downs you can have in 30 minutes to solve all the problems that you have. So those sessions that you have are completely free. Maybe you see them once a week. Maybe you see them once a month. Again, in Vancouver, counseling is very, very expensive. I don't know about other places in the world, but it can run you upwards of $200 to $300 an hour to see a counselor in Vancouver. So this is an incredible resource that right now, through these steps, you can have in your phone. They are ready to work with the hours that your life needs. I know I earlier took a shot at industry saying that we don't have a lot of free time, but we often have free time at strange times. Here we are having COOKSCAMP on a Wednesday. Maybe it's best for you that you're available. You're never available on a Friday or Saturday, but you're always available on a Monday, but you're only available at 11 p.m. LifeWorks will work around that. They have 24/7 coverage again. So some of the major reasons that people would be reaching out to LifeWorks, some of the things that we see range from lower to higher on the importance that we see somebody right away. A tough day. Say somebody has a really, really tough day. That could be, I just had a rough service online. I messed something up, something went wrong. And they say, great, let's speak about it. We can take that a little bit further in workplace issues. It could be, hey, I was at work today and I was harassed by somebody in the workplace, and I really need to speak to somebody about it to know what to do. And they say, okay, great. We have somebody else to speak to on that. Robert, Chef Belcham has spoken a lot about things like the brigade system and about day wage and some of these terrible things that we've all battled in the past. So you can call up LifeWorks and say, hey, I'm working for $100, $200 a day, $50 a day for free. I'm staging and this is not working. My life is going into shambles because I work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. What do I do about this? And they say, great, we're going to put you in touch with a financial advisor as opposed to a clinical counselor. Another big one, anxiety and depression. That's a blanket term for so many things. You can just call up and say, hey, I'm experiencing terrible anxiety. And you don't have to take it any further than that. And they'll put you in touch with somebody specifically geared to deal with anxiety and depression in the workplace, and specifically for restaurant industry. I think that's an amazing resource to have. The other big one, which we touched on already, is people often message about relationships. That's not something that's specific to restaurant industry, but that's one of the large categories of people messaging in wanting help. Whether that be, hey, I just had a fight with my partner. Hey, I just took an event to cook on a day that my partner and I had thought that we were going to be together, and we had a big fight, and I want to talk about it. That's like, great. We're going to set you up with a couples counselor, or we're going to set you up with an individual counselor to do that. Or it could be major, hey, I'm going through a divorce, or I'm going through a separation, or, me and my partner have a much larger problem that we need to speak about. They say, great, we have somebody on deck specifically for that. We can bring you in, or we can bring you and your partner in to a phone call, a video call, a chat call, or a group call. These things are all available for free all the time. To create a work-life balance is difficult for many people in the industry. I saw a small snippet in LifeWorks the other day about a individual who's a public speaker, who's also a clinical counselor, making themselves available to coach people through work-life balance. Wouldn't we all want a little bit of that? I can speak from the heart myself, saying work-life balance has been a challenge working as a culinarian. To be able to pick up your phone right now, be a member of Mind the Bar, pick up the LifeWork app, go in there and say, hey, I'd like some help with the work-life balance. We can do that right now, today, while I'm on this call. You could be doing it on your computer while you see me here talking about this. It is ultimately Mind the Bar's best way to bring help forwards and let you feel safe getting that help. We don't want you to feel you have to go without because there's nowhere for you to go within. I think that's a really good closing statement for me. If you're not willing to go within, you may be having to willing to go without. So I invite you all to reach out to become a member of Mind the Bar at mindthebar.com and to take those steps to use LifeWorks. Let's hear some questions. Anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Johnny. Thank you for that overview of the app. It's great. I'm going to get things started here. I think it was important to talk about these issues right up front. And on that, how much progress on these issues have you seen over the past 18 months within the app or within the industry and your colleagues?
Progress. Oh, I mean, there's progress every day, Chef. The difficulties of that is how we measure that. The measurables of what progress means to any of us is so individual. That's why it's important to have something like LifeWorks that is available in your cell phone, completely confidential and free and out of a spotlight. Because for us in the industry, to stand in the middle of a kitchen line and put your hand up and say, hey, I'm having a problem right now is difficult. And I may just be speaking for myself and personal experience, but it's difficult for people to stand up in front of a crowd and say, hey, I have a problem. This is what's going on. So we measure the progress of how many people are reaching out to use it, which of course is confidential through LifeWorks. I don't even know how many people are going, but I know that they're very, very busy, and we get to see some of the positive stats coming through that, which is the driving force and why I'm here today to speak about it, because it's working.
Right. You mentioned having access to 6 sessions. Yes. But the thought didn't get finished. So is there an upper limit of how many sessions you can have based on how many issues you have, or what's
okay. What I followed through there was you can have more than 6 sessions. There was a term used by the amazing public speaker with Mona Chappelle one time, where he said that those are individual reasons so you can have an individual reason for each 6 sessions. If I was to say the things that I was speaking about, if I was to come forward and say, I'm experiencing what I believe is workplace harassment, they will set you up with those 6 sessions. And then I call back the next day and I say, I really need some help with relationships in my life. I'm having a problem with the relationship. And they'll set you up with 6 sessions for that as well. Furthermore, the president of Mind the Bar and I had a discussion just yesterday about the fact that we can extend past 6 sessions and Mind the Bar will continue to pay for it on a case-by-case scenario. But that's never happened. Nobody's needed more than 6 sessions, so Mind the Bar hasn't yet had to do that.
That's amazing. There's a couple other questions from the attendees. How can people in the industry support Mind the Bar and their ability to provide these services? Is there how do they get their funding and that sort of thing to provide these services?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, first off, sign up. Mind the Bar is 100% volunteer based. That's myself included. We fundraise. My particular role is director of events. We throw events both online and in person, although obviously in person hasn't been that popular in the past 18 months. And all funds that come from that go directly into us paying for LifeWorks through Mona Chappelle. Although there's other projects with Mind the Bar. One of the quick ones we can talk about is through Not 9 to 5 with Hassel in Toronto. We're working on creating a workplace mental health course similar to the Canadian mental health course that's available for $35 to members of Mind the Bar, which regularly would be about $1,300. I've taken the Canadian course, which is amazing, but to think that we'd be able to offer to managers, chefs, cooks, dishwashers, anybody, the full 3-week course on workplace mental health for $35. That's where we're directing some of our money now. So to answer that question is go to mindthebar.com, get involved. And if you volunteer your time, that will create funds for us to direct towards people who need it.
That's amazing. I mean, $35 for that amount of information is just staggering, actually.
Intense. It's intense. It's very cool.
Mind the Bar support services are clearly aimed at supporting individuals. How can operators and employers get more involved in helping Mind the Bar?
You know, we do get messages from, you know, specific operators, or, you know, I'll give you a confidential one with no names. Getting a message from a GM of a hotel saying, you know, how do we put this forwards? There's a program that we're working on where we'll be able to visit locations. That's been curbed a little bit through the pandemic, but right now the best way to do it is through the app and through our website, mindthebar.com. I know that currently they're working on our website a lot. That's not my area of expertise, but I know that everything is listed there. But in the future, to answer that question, we would like to be able to visit the locations and to do a stand-up, to get the kitchen crew together, get the front of house together, and to just, you know, stand there in vulnerability and be like, hi, we're Mind the Bar, and we want to offer you these things. You don't have to do it right now. You don't even have to do it at work. You know, take the time to access these resources and to walk people through maybe even what I'm doing today, but on site at a restaurant.
Well, thank you very much, Johnny. On behalf of everyone, thank you to you. Thank you to Mind the Bar for bringing these important services and tools to everybody who's in the industry. It's very much appreciated. I think that all of these issues, or not issues, like things that we have to go through on the day-to-day, having a resource to help us with those is something I never had as a young cook, or I barely have that now, let alone when I was younger. I think it's absolutely amazing, and please continue doing that great work.
Thank you. That's very kind, Chef. I appreciate you having me here, and I look forward to doing it again around a campfire.
Definitely around the campfire. All right, now it's time for a bit of fun. We have some prizes to give away.
I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to take over from you, Robert. Is that cool?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much to Johnny and Mind the Bar. This is honestly, just hearing Johnny talk about that gave me goosebumps. Robert, I'm going to echo some of what you said, saying that, you know, you didn't have these resources growing up. I don't want to say I'm like really old or anything, but I can say even at my age, these resources didn't even exist, you know, when I was going through all of this. So I think that this is amazing that you guys know about this, and I really encourage you guys to sign up. It's so amazing just what we've done with our industry, and that this is really specialized for us. That makes it really unique. And I really hope that those of you who can benefit from this do sign up and use the service. So now for a bit of fun, let's change the beat a little bit. We have some prizes for you. So I know that some of you have come just for the prizes, although I hope not, because you guys are going to get a lot more than just prizes by staying with us. We have an attractive selection of prizes for you. COOKSCAMP attendees, in appreciation of your participation today. So our random name picker is combining the list of attendees, and our first prize goes to Alex Orlenko from Vancouver, BC. So Alex Orlenko, Orlenko, you're the winner of the brand new Le Creuset cast iron and enameled pan from our friend Michelle Maiko Berciani at Le Creuset Canada. Congratulations, and we'll be in touch with you soon so you can claim your prize. So now on to our next speaker. Every successful operation needs a smart and crafty back office person to help steer the business side of things. Calen McNeil does just that and more as co-owner of Big Wheel Burger and Zambri's restaurant in Vancouver Island. However, Calen believes that keeping a business thriving and all the rapid changes being tossed our way require some innovation to the stock business model. He's going to tell us more about that and his new community building project, the Bread and Butter Collective. Presented with thanks to Gordon Food Services. Welcome, Calen McNeil. And
Thank
campers,
you.
remember to put, no worries. I just want to remind everyone to put your Q&A in the box, and Robert Belcham's going to go through that after the presentation, Calen. Thank you. You're on.
Thank you, Mijune. Welcome, campers. I first want to recognize the traditional territories I'm on of the Lekwungen peoples here in Victoria, Southern Vancouver Island. Yeah, so for those that don't know me, I'm the business end of Zambri's and Big Wheel Burger, as Mijune indicated. I think traditionally in the restaurant business, there's always a pretty big conflict between the creative side of the restaurant industry and the chefs. Chefs, I have a tremendous amount of respect for. It truly is an art. Marrying business with that art creates a lot of conflict, and it does result in restaurants having an overabundant failure rate, in my opinion. But there is a way forward where you can marry the two and be profitable. It's taken me 22 years to figure that out, but I would say we've kind of figured it out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about business development and, just way to think about things differently in your restaurant business or to approach business in general. Obviously, in the restaurant industry, it's really important to have good quality food and good quality service. We're lucky in BC to have an abundance of good quality products, a lot of local farmers, and there's a lot of added value that you can bring to your business by leaning into those inherent qualities that we have just where we are. So when we started Zambri's, I started it with my business partners, Joe Zambri and Peter Zambri. Joe was my wife at the time and is my ex-wife, and we've been able to navigate 22 years in business. We've been divorced about 10 years. So that in itself could be a podcast, I'm sure. But part of the struggle in the early days of it was just trying to figure out how we could do a good quality product with good quality service and make money. My background in business, I've always felt that it's possible. I've been a firm believer of, perfect practice when implemented well can work. So a lot of people said, oh, that's good in business or good in the books, but how do you implement that in real life? And I think part of it is just doing it and doing it to the precision that's required in order for it to succeed. So that's something that I've always been fighting and battling. And it's that dichotomy, I think has produced good results for us. In the early days, it was a lot harder to make a buck. But once we figured that sweet spot where we could produce good quality product, good quality service, and still make a profit at the end of the day is where you're going to be successful. And that's where we've seen success. The other thing that I want to talk about that, it's one thing to have the good quality product, the good quality service, but what is going to differentiate you from the competition? So I think, and that's the competition in itself is good. So if you're surrounded by bad competition, I think that's going to lower the bar. If you're surrounded by good competition, everybody needs to rise and will rise. So, doing good things will produce good results, and hopefully you're surrounded by good competition, which will draw people down to your area, which is kind of the idea. Now, one of the things that we've been able to do with Big Wheel Burger is go a step further. And from my background of I used to be an importer, and I used to deal with Home Depot, Walmart, all these big box stores, where there wasn't a lot of soul in what you did. And while business ethics is one thing, trying to marry that with your personal ethics is the other. And that's where I got out of that business, because I just couldn't continually justify business ethics that didn't align with my personal ethics. So when it comes to the restaurant industry, we have a beautiful opportunity to marry those two things, where you can actually produce a good product, produce good service, and make a profit. But how you differentiate yourself with your competition is the key. And in this day and age, in this climate, leaning into the social enterprise and the social capital is what's one thing that we've done well. When we decided to open Big Wheel Burger, we did it just after we had moved Zambri's to its new location in the Atrium building downtown. It's a beautiful location, very expensive. We needed to be really clever when we opened Big Wheel Burger, and we weren't very clever. We lost a bunch of money in the first couple of years. People weren't really getting what we were doing. But the original concept of the idea of it was to do something different and create an arm's length business. And I think that's one of the things that when you're an owner operator, it's really hard to look at it from a 30,000 view approach, where you're like, okay, what would the banks view my business at? Would my customers view my business like? Would investors potentially look at my business? And really be critical about what you're doing, and why you're doing it. It's one thing to do it just with pure passion. It's another thing to do it where you're going to execute well and you're going to actually create a business that can support your staff, support your suppliers, support yourself. And, you know, if COVID's taught us anything, it's really exposed a lot of weaknesses in that. I think, you know, operating on negative margins or 0 to 2% margins is not sustainable in the industry. Having an industry that's based on low income, a race to the bottom, that again is not the way you can survive these types of events, and it's not representative of a solid, positive industry. So one of the things that we did when we started Big Wheel Burger is we decided to become carbon neutral. So that in its own way was an aspiration, and part of that aspiration was, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if we as a group can make money doing that, but wouldn't a great story would be if we were able to make a fast food carbon neutral restaurant. And that's kind of was the beginning of the journey that we're on, because what it taught us is that we actually could, where we were able to invest in that social capital. We were able to do something good for the environment, and we were able to tell a different story. So it wasn't just about the product we sold, and we sold, our burgers were good. I mean, we made little mistakes early on, like everybody does. But eventually we got our product dialed, we got our service dialed. But other people in the area, we have fortunate enough to have fantastic restaurants in Victoria and Southern Vancouver Island. So everybody's doing really good things. What is going to set us apart? Well, what we found out is that people actually cared about the environment. And when they're choosing whether they're going to dine, they chose to have a burger instead of at our competition. Perhaps they came to our restaurant because of our carbon initiatives. So what that then brought us to is, well, what else can we do? So a few years before the pandemic, we started a foundation called the Big Wheel Community Foundation. And the idea around that was to try to start raising money for community and supporting the community around us. And that is one of the things that is key to this discussion, is we're only as good as the community that is around us. So ideally, you want to hire people that reflect the community you're in. You want to find a way to support the community, and the end product of that is that the community will support you. So, you know, the traditional business model where everybody's like, how can we make money? I think where you need to start looking at is, how can we build a community around us that's going to support us? So it's kind of turned the profit pyramid upside down. And obviously you have to use good business fundamentals at the end of the day. You can't just be giving stuff away or starting philanthropy before you are successful. But you can really build success by focusing on the community first, focusing on your staff, and leveraging that. So, you know, typically your restaurants are one-dimensional. It's you know, good quality food, good quality service, and then you just leverage your personality. So when you start bringing the community in and what you're doing for your staff and what, you know, how you're supporting your community, now you can start leveraging that, which allows you to change the model of where your contribution comes from and how much money you can charge for your product. Because, you know, you need to build your product and your services that are reflective of what you want to try to do for the community, but you also want to give that higher purpose for your customers to come and support you. And a lot of the times they will support you on that. So those are some of the successes that we had with doing that. I think part of the challenge is getting that message out there, but you know, you have to do it with authenticity. You truly have to believe it, because people will see through it. So, you know, whatever you're going to decide to add that extra value, think about it. Make sure it aligns with you know, your own values and viewpoints, and then start implementing it, because it really does make a big difference. It's made a big difference for us. Part of the idea around that is everybody hears about drinking Kool-Aid. Well, what is your message? How are you going to get people to drink your Kool-Aid? What's going to set you apart from your competition? So I think, you know, in Big Wheel standpoint, we've chosen a number of different things. We've got our climate action. We did a community garden. We've got our foundation. We're working on a living wage program. And that led me and the other co-founder of the Bread and Butter Collective, when COVID hit, is we saw the disparity between the success that or the ability to navigate these interruptions. Big Will Burger can switch to a takeout model. We were relatively not impacted. We didn't need to lean on the government funding, but many of our peers in the industry were doing very, very badly. Zambri's, it's a full service dining restaurant. That one did not fare as well during COVID. So what it led to, and Jeff Hetherington, one of our original founders of Big Will Burger, formerly owner of Pig Barbecue, brought to me and a few others an idea where we actually came together and shared information. I think, the one thing we learned early on in that is that, we've insulated ourselves as restaurateurs and viewed everyone as competition, and we didn't want to share ideas. And many of us were walking down that journey without any knowledge or understanding. Does everybody know that you can't spend more than 8% of your revenue on rent? I don't know. Is it a 30-30-30-10 model? I'm not sure. So sharing those ideas, especially in times of crisis, and just breaking down those walls and those barriers is key to surviving this. But it's also how you elevate. The tide brings all boats up. So if you're working together, you're sharing ideas, you're collaborating, you're going to be significantly more successful. But it's also a requirement in this day and age, because we will not survive as an industry if we don't start collaborating. It comes down to fair wages. It comes down to mental health supports, as you heard in the Mind the Bar, purchasing ability and power and influence. And it can't just be, slanted to the big companies and the chains. A lot of those chains have resources in business planning and a deeper knowledge of business. But they only make up a smaller portion of the overall pie. Majority of restaurants and hospitality businesses, coffee shops, are mom and pop, small owners. And how do we share that information? So what we did is we created the Bread and Butter Collective. So currently we have about 35 members. Most of them are local to Southern Vancouver Island. We've got a few and growing in BC. We're still trying to navigate how we're going to integrate new membership and what our policies are going to be and things like that. But from the core group of people that we meet every week, we have a Dropbox where we basically put all the information into that Dropbox, and we allow everybody to access it. So we put business plans, financials, banking contacts, supplier contacts, employee manuals, all of those things that have proven to be successful for the ones that have fared better. So it's very encouraging. The collaboration we've had with each other has been phenomenal. I've got to meet some really fantastic entrepreneurs. I think that not doing it, we would have fared far worse through the pandemic. And I think many of the people that were struggling hard through the pandemic definitely realized the benefit of that partnership and that collaboration. So some of the values that we bring to the Bread and Butter Collective is collaboration. So sharing knowledge, experience, wisdom, best practices, successes for betterment of all members. Triple bottom line, sustainable level of profit, community contribution, environmental impact, accountability to self, family, business, community, and alignment with collective decisions. So a lot of the times, obviously, as everybody knows, you put yourself last. So if you can't afford to make payroll, you don't pay yourself. If you can't afford to eat, you feed your children, those types of things. And I think as a business, that's unfair. And part of it is, as an industry in its whole, you basically are subsidizing your diners if you aren't making a profit. And a decent, healthy profit should be between 8 and 12%. 10% is something that everybody should strive for. So that is the focus of Bread and Butter Collective, is making sure that we are actually making money and that we're making decisions that will allow us to get there. It's not going to happen overnight, but it'll happen over a period of time. The other thing is just excellence, commitment to running industry-leading businesses, providing the best quality products, supporting local, and generating memorable customer experiences. As I mentioned earlier, we have an abundance of farms, and when the pandemic hit, those farms were hit really hard, and a lot of them lost their customers. And that is really about the community building. It's just not just about the customers or your staff. or it's about the suppliers and how we keep food sustainability and security going in the communities that we're in for the next thing. And the other one, which is the most important one, is learning, right? Education, sharing, allowing people, not being afraid of competition and afraid of, protecting all this information. I think if as a group and an industry, and who knows where we're going to end up, we might be 75% of the industry we had pre-pandemic, we might be 50%. So why not really strengthen that, but build it back better? And everybody talks about building back better. This is the truer version of it, is where we're all working together, we're all sharing, we're all collaborating, and away you go. So basically, if you want to find out more information about that, it's breadandbuttercollective.com. We have a podcast. It's also available on YouTube, and the links are on our website, where we just have real conversations, and we bring on guests that are in the industry that know. We collaborate, we share, and thank you for listening.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Calen. Thank you for being with us to start with. Thank you for chatting to us about, the Bread and Butter Collective and business models and things. Do some Q&A. So everybody out there, please type your questions into the Q&A box, and then we'll have Calen answer them, and any of the panelists answer them. We're going to try to answer all questions. If we don't get it to the panelists, we'll definitely get you an answer over the next couple of days. So all questions will be answered. I see Johnny's actually answering some questions from earlier as well, some other questions. The first question I wanted to start with, though, is there's a lot of peer-to-peer, business-to-business collaboration and cooperation built into the Bread and Butter Collective. How did you and Jeff and your colleagues kickstart that collaboration? How did you guys start it all? Like, did Jeff come to you one day and say, we got to figure something out?
Basically, yeah. Jeff basically said, hey, what do you think about this idea of collaboration? I've always been a fan of collaboration. I've always thought that this hoarding of information and anti-competitive spirit is hurting our industry. I think there's a huge gap in knowledge, and primarily it comes from the fact that this is a very passion-built industry. Chefs are creative artists. Imagine if you're running an art studio, and you're relying 100% on creative. Like, it takes a very special talent in anything you're doing to be able to wear all the different hats it takes to be successful. So for me, because I've been in this industry 22 years, and I've had the battles with the creative conflict, it was really easy. So Jeff, when he brought up the idea, we just went to our network of people that we know, everybody we could think of that was in the industry, and some of them, we liked, and some of them we didn't like, and some we were friends with previous, and some we'd never talked to before. And we just called a big meeting, and we had our first meeting. It was just when the first wave was waning, so we did it in person with masks, and we just had heart to heart, and we said, "How's everybody doing?" And let's talk real. And one of the criterias of this is that it's real talk. So we don't, hide anything. When the idea of the Dropbox is that we're all contributing, so we all put stuff in it, and we're all sharing. And it's been fantastic. It's been one of the best mentorship groups I've been involved in any industry. And I've seen real movement. And there's nothing more satisfying than that.
I mean, when I first heard about it, we had the podcast. I was on your podcast, and then we've talked about it on our podcast for the Chef's Table as well. I'm just blown away by how there's just so many people just want to help each other. We're in such a competitive business, and I've been in it for 25 years, a long time, just like you. And every time I've ever heard of restaurateurs getting together to actually help each other is actually never. I've never heard that before. So it's very unusual. So what kind of ambitions or goals do you have for the collective? And do you think you'd be able to branch or have other collectives in other parts of British Columbia or in other parts of the country? Do you think that's a possibility?
I do. And I'm a firm believer that everything and anything is possible if you put your mind to it. A lot of things don't happen because of fear or of insecurity, or just not trying. So some of the things that we've done to date, and obviously, I think we just had our 1 year sort of anniversary of where we first got together. We've been able to implement environmental returnable containers. We've got a 10% discount card for all of our members. We've got a Dropbox, like I mentioned before, to share all the information. And we're starting to figure out the rules, and because obviously we've had a lot of interested people come in. One of the things we really want to focus on is that we're focusing on businesses that don't have access to they don't have access to a CFO, they don't have an access to a marketing department, things like that. So really independent. Doesn't mean you can't have 3 or 4 locations or 5 locations or what have you, but so we've had people from other organizations come that have that support. So we're just trying to figure out our guidelines and our guiding principles. So we're probably about 6 months away from when we can actually boilerplate this. And I personally, whether it's through the Bread and Butter Collective or just mirroring this in other cities and other organizations to start their own, Good Food Austin, or there's another organization of collaboration in Austin, Texas, where we started looking around and see if these other organizations were around, and there are a few in the States. I don't know of any collaboration like ours in Canada yet, but listen, if anybody wants to email me, Calen@bigwheelburger.com, I'll share whatever I know of how we've done what we've done. If they want to do that, and probably within the next 6 months, maybe to a year, we'll be able to actually tangibly be able to share what we're doing with others.
One of the questions we have from the attendees is where can people access more information about the Bread and Butter Collective?
You can go to breadandbuttercollective.com. That's got everything on it. It's got our links to our podcast. It's got all the information, our tenants, what we're trying to do. I think that website really speaks to exactly what we're trying to do. And I think if you look at it, you'll truly understand what we're doing. One of the prouder things and I think that's what's brought our group together, is that we're so able to communicate what we're trying to do, and in a way that resonated with people. And so breadandbuttercollective.com.
And another resource that I'd like to plug too for Calen is the podcast. There's the podcast on living wage and the podcast on mental health, actually. It's 2 of the best podcasts I've heard on either of those. Amazing work.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the podcast. I mean, we've got, I don't know, we're over 1,000 downloads or something like that, but there's so much good information on there. Like you mentioned, those 2. There's another one where we sat down with the manager at the BDC, the Business Development Bank, talked about business planning and all of that. And that's another great resource. And this is information that should be free. But I mean, many of us struggled for years. You know very well, you've been in the industry a long time, had your own businesses. It's even someone who came from a business background, trying to understand what the industry averages for different things and how you access money. I didn't even know the BDC gave money, to people like us until like 10 years ago. My first 10 years, I'm struggling around, banging my head against, these institutionalized banks that won't lend you money unless you've got the exact amount of money there. And it's hard to do business, but business development, hey, who would have thunk?
I mean, it's an amazing resource. Thank you again. Keep up the good work, and really appreciate you being here today and chatting to everybody.
I love it. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.